The glass vase exploded against the wall, 1,000 glittering shards raining down on the marble floor. It wasn't enough. Nothing was ever enough. Get out. Joon-Ho Kang's voice wasn't a shout. It was a raw, animal sound, torn from a place deep inside him that was always on fire. All of you, get out. The two women in his bed scrambled for their clothes, their faces pale with a fear that had nothing to do with his reputation as the Dragon of Vancouver. This was a more primal terror. They had seen the monster underneath, the one that couldn't be satisfied, the one that was slowly tearing its way out of his skin. The door clicked shut, leaving him in the suffocating silence of his penthouse. 34 floors up, the lights of the city glittered, a kingdom he'd built with his own hands. It looked like a graveyard. He pressed the heels of his palms into his eyes, trying to crush the pressure building behind them. It felt like his skull was in a vice, tightening with every heartbeat. 10 years. 10 years of this endless, crawling need under his skin. A hunger that no amount of money, power, or pleasure could ever fill. It was a rat trapped in his chest, gnawing its way out. The door opened and closed softly. He didn't need to look. It was Tae-sik, his shadow. The same? Tae-sik's voice was quiet, steady. It was always steady. Worse, Joon-Ho growled, dropping his hands. His whole body was trembling with pent-up, useless energy. At the meeting today with the shipping magnate, I almost put a fork through his hand, just for chewing too loud. The sound, it was like he was grinding glass inside my head. They both knew what this meant. The dragon, the most feared name in Vancouver's underworld, was losing his mind. And in their world, madness was a death sentence. A weak king was a dead king. Ji-hoon called. Tae-sik said carefully, referring to Joon-Ho's younger brother. From Seattle. He found a place. A private clinic in Toronto. The Pines. They specialize in neurological conditions no one else can diagnose. Joon-Ho let out a bitter, broken laugh. Another one? How many is that now? 5 countries? Dozens of doctors? They look at me like a broken machine. They can't fix what's wrong with me because they don't know what it is. He spun around, his reflection in the floor-to-ceiling window staring back at him, a gaunt, wild-eyed stranger. No one can. Ji-hoon is insisting. He said it's the last one. Joon-Ho stared at the city he commanded, the empire that was worthless because he couldn't enjoy a single second of it. He would trade all of it, every dollar, every ounce of fear, for one moment of quiet inside his own head. Fine, he said, his voice dead. One last try. What would you do if your own body was a prison? If every second was pain, and the only person who could calm the storm inside you was the one person you were told to destroy? You're about to find out. Subscribe now because this story starts in 3, 2, 1. 600 kilometers away, in a small Toronto apartment that smelled of turmeric and ginger, Amelia Mensah was packing her bag. Her grandmother's talisman, a small, smooth stone, was warm in her palm. You have the sight, child. Her grandmother's voice echoed in her memory, a frail but iron-strong whisper from her deathbed. You will find someone the world has given up on. You will see the wound everyone else misses. She tucked the stone into her scrubs pocket and took a deep breath. Today was her first day at the Pines Wellness Center. Prestigious. Intimidating. It took less than an hour for the intimidation to curdle into something else. Our clientele is particular, Ms. Mensah. Dr. Blake steepled his fingers on his expensive desk. He didn't smile. They expect a certain standard of care. And carer. Amelia held his gaze. She'd met men like him before. All polish, no heart. Pain is particular to everyone, Dr. Blake. It doesn't check resumes. Something flickered in his eyes. Annoyance. We'll see. Your first patient arrives this afternoon. He stood up, his message delivered. He's challenging. He's run through every nurse we've assigned to him. Consider him your trial by fire. Try not to get burned. He left her in the hallway, her fists clenched at her sides. Before she could move, another nurse appeared, a pretty Korean woman with a bright, practiced smile. You must be Amelia.
I'm enough.
She took Amelia's hands. Oh, you poor thing. He assigned you to him already.
Who? Joon-Ho Kang.
Gina's eyes went wide with dramatic awe. They call him the Dragon. He's not just a patient. He's a legend. And a nightmare. He's destroyed nurses. Physically, mentally. No one volunteers anymore. Amelia's stomach tightened, but she straightened her shoulders. He's still just a man with a medical condition. Gina's laugh was a little too sharp. You are new here. Come on. I'll walk you to the lion's den. But at the door to the private suite, guarded by two stone-faced men in suits, Dr. Blake reappeared and stopped Gina cold. Nurse Mensa only, he said firmly. Mr. Kang's orders. For a split second, so fast Amelia almost missed it, Gina's sweet smile vanished, replaced by a flash of pure, venomous anger. Then it was gone. Good luck, Amelia, Gina said, her voice sugary again. You're going to need it. Amelia nodded and stepped inside. The door closed behind her, and she didn't see the way Gina's smile melted away, her nails digging half-moons into her own palms. The suite was more five-star hotel than hospital. And there, standing with his back to her, was Joon-Ho Kang. He was perfectly still, his hands gripping the windowsill so hard his knuckles were bone-white. He wasn't just tense. Pain radiated off him in waves, a physical heat that Amelia could feel across the room. Mr. Kang?
I'm Nurse Mensa.
I'll be your...
He turned.
Their eyes met, and the world went silent. Not quiet.
Silent.
Like the moment after a gunshot. The hum of the air conditioner vanished. The distant city, sounds died. Amelia felt the hair on her arms stand up. A deep, ancient instinct stirred in her chest, right where her grandmother's stone lay. Joon-Ho's face was a mask of confusion. Then shock. Then something like fear. What did you do? He whispered, his voice hoarse. I introduced myself. He moved toward her, not like a threat, but like a man in a desert stumbling toward a mirage. He circled her slowly, his eyes searching, desperate. Don't move, he breathed. Just don't move. He stopped directly in front of her, close enough for her to see the brutal exhaustion carved into his handsome face. Close enough to see the fine tremor in his hands. Take my blood pressure, he ordered, his voice cracking. Amelia reached for his wrist, her professional training on autopilot. The moment her fingers touched his skin, Joon-Ho flinched. A sharp, ragged inhale. And then, tears welled in his eyes and spilled over, tracing clean paths down his cheeks. Not from sadness. From relief. The fire that had been burning him alive for a decade flickered. The screaming in his head softened to a whisper. For 3 perfect, impossible seconds, Joon-Ho felt nothing but peace. Impossible, he choked out, staring at her like she'd just pulled him back from the edge of a cliff. What are you? Amelia's heart was hammering. I'm just a nurse, Mr. Kang. Your blood pressure is elevated, but not dangerous. I need your complete medical history. Dr. Blake's files are incomplete. Sit, he said, gesturing to a chair.
His voice was different now. Softer.
Pleading. I'll tell you everything. Just stay. And for the next hour he did. He told her about the curse that started at 24. The burning, crawling urge under his skin that no encounter could satisfy. The migraines that blinded him, the muscle tension that felt like his bones were trying to escape. The violence it sparked in him. The fear that one day he would lose control completely and destroy everything. I've seen specialists on 3 continents, he said, his voice low and defeated. I've tried medications that turn me into a zombie. Nothing works. No one can help me. He looked at her, his dark eyes full of a desperate, fragile hope. But just now, when you touched me, the screaming stopped. For the first time in 10 years, it was quiet. Amelia's mind raced. Her medical training offered no explanation. But her grandmother's wisdom did. In my family's culture, she said carefully, choosing her words, we believe some sicknesses aren't just in the body. They're an imbalance. The spirit, or the body itself, is searching for something it can't name. You think I'm cursed, I think you're suffering. And I think she hesitated, then committed. I think we can help you. But you have to trust me. Joon-Ho looked down at where her hand still rested on his sleeve. That simple touch didn't ignite the usual manic, desperate need in him. It grounded him. It calmed him. It made him feel almost human. I don't trust anyone, he said, his voice a raw whisper. But for you, I'll try. Watching from the observation room behind the one-way glass, Gina felt the jealousy burn like acid in her stomach. She had been trying to get close to Joon-Ho Kong for 2 years. 2 years of perfecting her smile, of being available, of hinting at her family's connections. He'd never looked at her. Not once. Not like that. And this African nurse, this outsider, walks in and in 5 minutes has him crying from relief? Sharing his life story? It wasn't fair. You're troubled, Gina. She didn't turn. She knew the voice. Dr. Blake. Her uncle. It's nothing, she said, her voice tight. It's not nothing. Dr. Blake came to stand beside her, watching the scene in the room like a scientist observing lab rats. You're beautiful. You're Korean. You're from a good family. You've been here for years. But he looks at her like she invented the moon. Gina's reflection in the glass was hard and hungry. What do you want me to say? Dr. Blake smiled, a thin, cruel thing. I want to know what you want, niece. I want what she has. Good, Dr. Blake said, his voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. Then let's take it. The change in Joon-Ho was immediate, and it shocked everyone. The volatile, unpredictable dragon became focused.
Calm.
The constant tension that coiled his muscles began to ease. He stopped inventing reasons for her to stay and started creating them. I'm experiencing chest tightness, he'd announce, lying back on the exam table. You should monitor me. Amelia would press the stethoscope to his chest, frowning. Your heart sounds perfect, Mr. Kong. Strong and steady. Check again. Thoroughly. She'd catch the ghost of a smile on his lips and feel an unwelcome heat rise to her cheeks. You're wasting medical resources. I'm paying enough to buy this clinic 10 times over. I'll waste what I want. But when she turned to leave, his voice would drop, all the arrogance gone, replaced by a vulnerability that disarmed her completely. Please, just stay a little longer. Tell me about Chicago. So she stayed. She told him about her father's community clinic in the South Side, where they treated patients who couldn't pay. She talked about her grandmother, the respected healer from her village, who taught her to see with more than just her eyes. She described the taste of real jollof rice and kelaweel, the sounds of the city she called home. Joon-Ho listened like a dying man being offered water. You're homesick, he observed one afternoon. Sometimes. I could fix that. I could bring your whole family here. Set your father up with his own clinic. Whatever you need. Amelia shook her head, a small, sad smile on her face. You can't buy away homesickness, Mr. Kong. Joon-Ho, he said softly. Call me Joon-Ho. Something shifted in the room. The air grew thick. Joon-Ho, she repeated, and the name felt foreign and familiar on her tongue. His cortisol levels had dropped 40%. Amelia showed him the chart, a mix of professional pride and something warmer, more personal, stirring in her chest. Whatever we're doing is working. Joon-Ho said nothing. They both knew the truth. It wasn't the facility. It wasn't Dr. Blake's treatment plan. It was her. Her presence. Her voice. The simple, grounding touch of her hand. Even Taesik noticed. You haven't had an episode in almost 3 weeks, Hyangnim. It's a miracle. Don't jinx it, Joon-Ho replied, but for the first time in a decade, a fragile, stubborn thing called hope had begun to grow in the scorched earth of his chest. It was during a routine checkup that he made his move. The professional line was about to be erased. Have dinner with me. Amelia's pen stilled on her clipboard. Excuse me? Not here. My penthouse. In Vancouver. Just dinner. He finally met her eyes, and the raw loneliness she saw there made her own heart ache. I don't want you as my nurse, Amelia. I want to know you. The real you. That's completely inappropriate. You're my patient. Then discharge me. The words hung between them, a challenge and an offering that sucked all the air out of the room. "I'll think about it," she whispered, her professionalism waging a war against the deep, instinctual pull she'd felt since the moment their eyes met. Joon-Ho smiled, the first real, unguarded smile she had ever seen from him. It transformed his face, stripping away the harshness and the pain, leaving behind a handsome, hopeful man. "That's not a no." Meanwhile, in the sterile break room, Gina was pouring her frustration into a cup of coffee she didn't want. "It's not fair," she hissed under her breath. "Life rarely is." Dr. Blake entered, smoothing his lab coat. "But fairness is a concept for children. The rest of us make our own opportunities." "What opportunity?" He looks at her like she's the sun. "He doesn't even see me."
Patience, Gina.
"Every man has a breaking point. Every trust has a limit. We just need to find his." Dr. Blake's phone buzzed. He glanced at it and a slow, sinister smile spread across his face. "Speaking of opportunities, I've just received a very interesting offer. From an old friend in Seattle." "What kind of offer?" "The kind that pays exceptionally well for a very specific service." He looked at his niece, his eyes cold and calculating. "The kind that requires a little internal assistance. Are you still interested in taking what's yours?" Gina didn't hesitate. "What do I need to do?" The dinner in Vancouver changed everything. Joon-Ho's penthouse was a study in cold modern luxury, but he'd made an effort. Soft music played. The lights were low. And the dining table. Amelia stopped dead in her tracks. It was covered in dishes she knew from her mother's kitchen. Jollof rice, fried plantains, groundnut soup, grilled tilapia with Shido sauce. "You did this for me?" she asked, her voice thick with emotion. Joon-Ho shrugged, but she could see the nervousness in his eyes. The most feared man in the city was nervous about a dinner. "I wanted you to feel at home." They talked for hours. He told her about his brother, Ji-hoon, the only family he had left. About their parents, his father murdered by business rivals, his mother dead from grief 6 months later. About building his empire from nothing on the tough streets of Vancouver, the loneliness of being feared instead of known. "Everyone sees the dragon," he said, swirling the wine in his glass. "The monster. No one sees me." "I see you," Amelia said softly. "I saw you the first moment in that hospital room. Not the dragon. Just a man in tremendous pain." He looked at her, and the vulnerability in his eyes was terrifying and beautiful. "I've done terrible things, Amelia. I'm not a good man." "You're a man who's been in pain," she corrected gently. "There's a difference." When he kissed her, it was nothing like she expected. It was tentative, gentle, a question. When she answered it, when the kiss deepened and they moved to his bedroom, when they made love with a shocking, soul-deep tenderness, Joon-Ho experienced a miracle. Satisfaction. Not the frantic, desperate release he was used to, but a deep, warm, all-encompassing peace that settled in his bones. The clawing urge was gone. The fire was out. He woke hours later with Amelia in his arms, the chronic emptiness completely absent for the first time in a decade. "You cured me," he whispered into her hair. She stirred, smiling sleepily. "Maybe you were never broken. Maybe you were just waiting for the right person." His announcement to his inner circle was pure Joon-Ho. He gathered his captains in the back room of his high-end restaurant, the same room where he'd ordered deaths and started wars. "Amelia is under my protection," he said, his voice flat and final. "She's mine. Anyone who looks at her wrong answers to me. Anyone who disrespects her doesn't walk away. Am I clear?" The message was received. The Dragon of Vancouver had claimed a woman. And not just any woman. An African nurse from Chicago. The underworld buzzed with the shockwave. But Joon-Ho didn't care. For the first time in years, he could think. He could lead. He could breathe. All because of her. He courted her properly. He learned bits of Twi to make her laugh. He attended church with her, even though he hadn't set foot in one since his mother's funeral. He met with leaders from the Ghanaian community, wanting to understand the world that made her. "You're really serious about her," Tae-sik observed one evening, watching Joon-Ho review engagement ring designs with a private jeweler. "She saved my life," Joon-Ho said, not looking up from a sketch that blended a Canadian maple leaf with Ghanaian Adinkra symbols. "She gave me a piece I thought was impossible." He held up the sketch. "I'm going to marry her, Tae-sik. Soon." Amelia, floating on a cloud of happiness, made the mistake of sharing her joy with the one person she shouldn't have. "He proposed," she whispered to Gina in the clinic hallway. "Well, he's planning to. At a party next week." "Gina, I never imagined. I came here for my career, and I found everything." Gina's smile was so wide it looked like it might crack her face. "I'm so happy for you, Amelia. You deserve everything." She pulled her into a tight hug, her nails digging just a little too hard into Amelia's back. Everything. But Amelia was too happy to notice the poison in the embrace. She didn't see the way Gina's face collapsed into a mask of pure hatred the moment she turned the corner. She didn't know that Gina immediately pulled out her phone and sent a single, one-word text to Dr. Blake.
Now.
The engagement party was a spectacle. Joon-Ho had rented out the entire top floor of a Vancouver skyscraper. The decorations were a fusion of Korean and Ghanaian elements. A DJ played Afrobeats that made the older Korean guests blink in confusion and then grin, starting to dance. Amelia wore a stunning custom gown of crimson and gold, and she felt like a queen with Joon-Ho's hand resting possessively on her waist. "I love you," he murmured in her ear. "My miracle. My cure. I love you too." They mingled, champagne flowing, the elite of Vancouver's shadow world and high society mixing in an uneasy truce enforced by the dragon's presence. Neither of them noticed Dr. Blake's careful, silent movements through the crowd. Neither of them saw him nod subtly to a waiter. Neither of them saw that waiter place a specific glass of champagne directly into Joon-Ho's path. The first sign was a spark. Joon-Ho felt it in his chest while laughing at a joke from a business associate. A single, familiar ember of heat.
No.
Not possible.
I'm cured.
But the ember caught. The heat spread, a wildfire through his veins, into his limbs, under his skin. The music, the laughter, the clinking of glasses, it all became a deafening roar, scraping against his raw nerves.
Joon-Ho.
Amelia touched his arm, her face etched with concern. "You look pale. Are you okay?" He couldn't answer. The urge was roaring back, faster and more vicious than before. It was a tsunami, obliterating the peace he'd come to rely on. A woman in a sparkling blue dress walked past, her perfume hitting his senses like a physical blow, and something in his brain snapped. He grabbed her wrist, hard, pulling her toward him. The woman gasped in pain and shock. The conversation around them died instantly.
John.
Amelia rushed forward, her heart hammering. "Let her go. What's happening to you?" But when he looked at Amelia, the woman who had been his peace, his cure, his everything, he felt nothing. Worse than nothing, a cold, sharp suspicion. Why isn't she calming me?
She always calms me.
Unless it was never real. Unless she was doing something to me all along. Get away from me, he snarled, and shoved her hard. He watched, a distant part of him screaming in horror, as Amelia stumbled backward, crashing into a table laden with champagne flutes. Glass shattered everywhere, the sound like his sanity breaking. "Joon-Ho, please." Amelia scrambled up, tears streaming down her face, her hand cut and bleeding. She reached for him. "Don't touch me," he roared. Then Tae-sik was there and two other bodyguards, grabbing his arms, forcing him to the ground. Joon-Ho fought them with a terrifying, inhuman strength, his veins bulging, his eyes wild and unfocused. The last thing he saw before they dragged him away was Amelia's face. Not angry, not even afraid, just utterly, completely heartbroken. Joon-Ho woke in his locked bedroom. The drug had worn off, leaving behind the familiar, agonizing fire under his skin and a sickening clarity. The memories flooded back. Grabbing that woman, shoving Amelia, the sound of breaking glass, the look on her face. His hands were raw, His throat was torn from screaming. "What did I do?" he croaked into the silence. Tae-sik, who had been standing guard by the door, stepped forward, his expression grim. The party ended. The guests saw everything. The news is already spreading. They're saying the dragon is unstable, that he's vulnerable. Joon-Ho felt his world, the new, happy world he'd built with Amelia, collapse into dust. He had been so sure he was cured, so certain she was his miracle. But the monster was still there, waiting just beneath the surface. A knock at the door. Dr. Blake entered, followed by a pale, concerned-looking Gina. His expression was grave, professional. "Mr. Kong, we need to speak about Nurse Mensa's treatment protocol," Dr. Blake began, laying a folder on the bedside table. He opened it to reveal medication logs, charts, and printed messages. He laid out the evidence with cold, surgical precision. Medication logs bearing Amelia's signature, showing she had been administering drugs known to cause dependency and severe rebound effects, the exact symptoms he'd experienced. Dosages that had increased over time, creating a reliance. He presented printed copies of text messages, allegedly between Amelia and a friend, talking about securing the bag and making him need me. "She was manipulating you, Mr. Kong," Dr. Blake said, his voice dripping with false sympathy. "Creating a pharmaceutical dependency. She made you believe you needed her, that you loved her, while she drugged you into compliance. Last night, something went wrong with the dosage. You weren't supposed to have such a violent reaction." He paused, letting the weight of his words sink in. "This could have killed you." The paranoia from the drug still lingered in Joon-Ho's system, poisoning his thoughts. His deepest fears, that Amelia's care was calculated, that her love was transactional, suddenly seemed horribly, undeniably real. Everyone betrays you. Everyone wants something. Why would she be different? Bring her here, he ordered, his voice dead, all emotion locked away behind a wall of ice. When Amelia was let in, she was still wearing her torn party dress, a small bandage on her hand. Her eyes were red raw, but the moment she saw him, she rushed forward, her professional instincts kicking in. "Joon-Ho, you need a full medical evaluation. Something triggered your condition, something external. We need to run blood panels, check for." "What did you give me?" His voice was like a whip crack, stopping her cold. "What? What did you give me?" He stood up, and the man facing her wasn't the gentle lover from last night. This was the Dragon of Vancouver. Brutal.
Deadly.
He threw the falsified documents at her feet. "Explain these." Amelia picked them up, her hands trembling. Her confusion turned to horror as she read. "This isn't... I never signed these. I never administered these medications. Joon-Ho, this is fake. Someone forged my signature. You made me believe I was cured." His voice cracked, despite his efforts to stay cold. "You made me believe you loved me. You made me think I could be normal. Be happy. I do love you. I would never." He laughed, a bitter, broken sound. "You saw a desperate, wealthy man with a condition no one could treat. And you exploited him. You created a dependency so I'd need you, so I'd marry you, so you could secure your future."
"No."
Amelia's tears flowed freely now. "Please, listen to me. Let me investigate these documents. Let me prove my innocence. Joon-Ho, please." But the Mafia boss had fully reemerged. The walls were up, higher and thicker than ever. "You have 24 hours to leave Vancouver. If you're still here after that, my protection is gone." His eyes were empty as he looked at her. "And this city is very dangerous for people who cross me." "Look at me," Amelia pleaded, stepping closer despite the guards. "Look me in the eyes and tell me you believe I could hurt you." Joon-Ho looked, and she saw the exact moment he chose to believe the lie. "That's your gift, isn't it?" His voice was hollow. "Making men believe." Something in Amelia's heart didn't just break. It shattered. "Get her out of my sight," he told Tae-sik. As Amelia was dragged away, sobbing, Gina stepped forward with perfect timing. "I'm so sorry, Mr. Kong," she said, placing a gentle, sympathetic hand on his arm. I tried to warn her to be honest with you. I told her this would only end badly, but she wouldn't listen. She looked up at him, her eyes wide and earnest. If there's anything I can do to help you through this. Joon-Ho barely heard her. He was watching Amelia disappear through the door, a part of his chest screaming that this was wrong, that he was making the worst mistake of his life. He ignored it. He'd trusted before. And look where it got him. Never again. Amelia lost everything in 24 hours. Her job at the Pines was terminated for gross ethical violations. Her reputation was destroyed by whispers that spread through Toronto's and Vancouver's medical communities like a virus. The gold-digging nurse who tried to trap the Mafia boss. Her work visa was suspended pending investigation. Her landlord in Toronto evicted her. Former colleagues wouldn't return her calls. The friends she thought she had made suddenly forgot her name. She was utterly alone, saved only by the kindness of a Ghanaian family who ran a small restaurant in Toronto. They had heard her story and refused to believe the official version. "You can stay in the room upstairs, sister," the matriarch, Alma, said, pressing a plate of warm food into her hands.
"We look after our own.
And we know lies when we hear them." Amelia couldn't afford to cry. Cry meant stopping. Stopping meant giving up. So she worked. On a borrowed laptop in the cramped room above the restaurant, she spent 18 hours a day, every day, documenting everything. There had to be proof. There had to be. Meanwhile, the dragon was dying. Not quickly, but slowly, painfully. The condition returned with a vengeance, worse than before, because now he knew what peace felt like, and he had destroyed it with his own hands. He cycled through women, desperately trying to recreate what he'd had with Amelia. Models, socialites, escorts. None of them quieted the screaming. None of them made the fire stop. Some left crying. Some left terrified. All left him feeling emptier than before. The urge consumed him, making him volatile, reckless. His syndicate's operations suffered. He made impulsive, aggressive moves that worried his captains. "You're going to get yourself killed," Tae-sik said bluntly after Joon-Ho barely survived an ambush he should have seen coming. "Maybe that's better than this," Joon-Ho had replied, his eyes dead. Jin-ah came to him, wore her most alluring dresses, spoke in her softest voice, touched his arm the way Amelia used to. He felt nothing. "Perhaps, in time, Nurse Park could provide the stability you need," Dr. Blake suggested during a follow-up consultation. "She's loyal. She's from a good family. She genuinely cares for you." Joon-Ho looked at Jin-ah's hopeful, calculating face and felt only a cold revulsion for her, for himself, for the whole wretched world. "Leave," he told them. "Both of you." Alone in his penthouse, he stared at photos of Amelia on his phone. Her smile over dinner in Toronto. Her face glowing in the morning light in his bed. The look in her eyes when he'd shown her the ring design. His finger hovered over delete. He never pressed it. Some nights, he replayed their last conversation. The conviction in her voice. The genuine shock in her eyes when she'd seen the documents. "This is fake. Someone forged my signature. Was it possible?" He always pushed the thought away. Doubt was weakness. Weakness got you killed. But at 3 a.m., when the urge clawed at him and no amount of violence or sex could quiet it, Joon-Ho wondered if he had made the worst mistake of his life. The first crack in the lie came on a Tuesday. Amelia's eyes were burning from staring at the screen, cross-referencing timestamps, building her case piece by painful piece. And then, she found it. A medication log showing her signature on a treatment administered on April 15th at 2:30 p.m. But on April 15th at 2:30 p.m., she had been at a nursing conference in Montreal. She had the flight records, the conference attendance sheet, a selfie she'd taken with a keynote speaker in the background, the clock on the wall clearly visible. "Someone forged my signature," she breathed, a surge of electric energy shooting through her exhausted body. She dug deeper, finding more inconsistencies. A treatment on a day she was documented as being off-duty, sick with the flu. Another on a day the clinic's security logs showed her keycard hadn't been used on his wing. The frame-up was good, but it wasn't perfect. She had the proof. Now she just needed someone who would listen. The knock on the door of the restaurant upstairs came on a rainy Thursday evening. Amelia opened it to find a young Korean man in an expensive coat, rain dripping from his hair. He looked like Joon-Ho, the same jawline, the same intense eyes, but softer.
Kinder.
Before you slam the door, he said, holding up his hands, my name is Ji-hoon.
Gang Yi-hoon.
I'm Joon-Ho's brother. Amelia's heart hammered against her ribs. Did he send you?
No.
He doesn't know I'm here. Ji-hoon's expression was pained. I'm here because my brother is destroying himself. And I don't believe you did what they said. Why? He was quiet for a moment. Because I've seen women try to manipulate my brother. They look at his money, his power, what he can give them. He met her eyes. They don't look at him. You looked at him like he was just a person. Like you actually saw him. Women who want to trap a man don't look at him like that. Amelia's eyes welled with tears she had forbidden herself to shed. I loved him. I still love him. And someone destroyed us. Come in, she said, stepping aside. I'll show you what I found. For hours, they reviewed her evidence together. Ji-hoon's expression grew darker and darker as he recognized the implications. If you're telling the truth, he said, his voice low and angry, someone went to extraordinary lengths to frame you. Who benefits from you being gone? I don't know. I'm just a nurse. I have no enemies. But my brother does. And whoever did this knew exactly how to hurt him. They knew his condition, his vulnerabilities, how to trigger him and make him turn against you. Someone on the inside. Someone with access. He pulled out his phone. I have contacts. We can dig deeper. Financial records, communications. If someone was paid to do this, there will be a trail. Why are you helping me? Amelia asked, her voice barely a whisper. Ji-hoon was quiet for a long moment. Because when Joon-Ho was with you, he was happy. Actually happy. Something I haven't seen since we were kids. His voice was rough with emotion. And now I watch him destroy himself a little more every day. If there's any chance you were innocent, if there's any chance of bringing him back, I'll take it. The investigation took weeks. They worked in the shadows. They discovered Dr. Blake's history first. A pattern of ethical flexibility at previous facilities, using patient information for leverage, extracting confidential payments. He'd been quietly pushed out of 2 hospitals before landing at the Pines. Then, they found the financial records. A large, untraceable payment to a shell corporation that was anything but untraceable to Ji-hoon's resources. The money led back to a shell company, which was owned by another, which was ultimately controlled by Park Min-jae, leader of the Emerald Cobras, Joon-Ho's most dangerous rival, based in Seattle. They paid him, Ji-hoon said, staring at the digital ledger. They paid Blake to destabilize him. To take away the one thing that was making him strong, making him clear-headed. This was a coordinated attack on his organization. Amelia felt cold. And Gina. More digging. More records. They found the family connection. Gina was Dr. Blake's niece. They found her 2-year pattern of trying to get close to wealthy, powerful patients. Her previous, failed attempts to attract Joon-Ho's attention. She wasn't in on the rival syndicate part. Ji-hoon concluded. She was just jealous. Dr. Blake used that jealousy. He gave her the access to plant the lies, to steer the narrative. She was his tool. Amelia stared at the mountain of evidence. Proof of her innocence, laid out in documents, records, and financial trails. We need to tell him, she said. He won't listen to you. Not yet. Ji-hoon was already planning, a determined look in his eyes. But he'll listen to evidence. And I know exactly when and where to present it. Dr. Blake had orchestrated the press conference perfectly. It was held in the grand lobby of the Pines, all gleaming marble and false promises. Every major media outlet in Vancouver was there, along with the city's medical elite and, most importantly, the powerful, shadowy figures of the underworld who needed to see that the dragon was still in control. Joon-Ho stood stiffly at the front, Gina positioned loyally by his side. The plan was clear. He would publicly endorse the Pines and, by extension, present Jin-ho as his trusted caregiver and future companion. It was a show of strength, a performance to quell the rumors. Jin-ho glowed with triumph. This was everything she had wanted. Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Blake began at the podium, his voice smooth and confident. Thank you for joining us today. We are here to celebrate a remarkable recovery and to announce a new era for. The main doors to the lobby burst open. Ji-hoon walked in, his steps echoing in the sudden silence. He didn't look at the crowd. His eyes were locked on his brother. He walked directly to the podium, holding a tablet. You need to see this, Ji-hoon said, his voice cutting through the room.
Now.
A muscle ticked in Joon-ho's jaw. He took the tablet. On the screen, a video began to play. It was Amelia, her face clear and determined, holding up a conference badge and a flight receipt. Asterisk, the medication log shows my signature on April 15th, but I was in Montreal on April 15th. Here's my flight record. Here's my conference attendance. Here's a time-stamped photo. Someone forged my signature. Asterisk. Then, security footage from the Pines, showing Amelia wasn't present when other treatments were logged. Then, the financial records, the trail of payments from Park Min-jae's shell companies to Dr. Blake's account, highlighted in glaring red. The room was utterly silent. Dr. Blake's face was a ghostly white. Joon-Ho looked up from the tablet. His eyes, cold and deadly, found Dr. Blake's. Continue the presentation, Doctor. Joon-Ho said, his voice dangerously quiet. I want everyone to hear this. He took the tablet and connected it to the large screens behind the podium. The evidence played for everyone to see. The forgeries, the financial treason, the pharmaceutical records of a specific neurotoxin traced to Dr. Blake's private lab. A horrified murmur rippled through the crowd. The crime lords in attendance understood instantly. This wasn't a medical issue. This was betrayal, an assassination attempt by a rival, enabled from within. You are paid by my enemies, Joon-Ho said, stepping away from Jin-ho and toward Dr. Blake. You poisoned me. You destroyed the one good thing in my life, to make me weak, to make me an easy target. He was inches from the doctor now. That's treason. Mr. Kong, please, Dr. Blake stammered, backing away. There is no please, Joon-Ho snarled. You know what happens to traitors. He turned to Jin-ho, who was crying, her perfect makeup starting to run. And you helped him destroy an innocent woman because you were jealous. I didn't know about the rivals. Jin-ho screamed, her composure shattering. I didn't know about the money. I just wanted you. She had everything. Your love, your attention, your peace. I'd been waiting for years. It wasn't fair. Fair. Joon-Ho's laugh was hollow and cold. You think this is about fair? He looked at her with utter contempt. You could never be her. You don't have what she has. The thing that quieted the monster inside me. All you have is ambition and a pretty face. He shook his head, his verdict final. And now you don't even have that. Your career is over. Your reputation is destroyed. Live with what you've done. He signaled to Tae-sik. Take Dr. Blake. He knows the price for treason. Dr. Blake didn't scream as they dragged him away. He knew it was pointless. Jin-ho collapsed to her knees, sobbing uncontrollably. No one moved to help her. But Joon-Ho was already gone, shoving through the crowd, running for the exit. Find her, he barked at Tae-sik, his voice cracking with a desperation he no longer had to hide. I don't care what it takes, find her now. The room above the restaurant in Toronto was dark, lit only by the glow of a single lamp. Amelia zipped up her suitcase. Her flight to Chicago, and then to Accra, left in the morning. It was over. Her visa had expired. Her fight was done. A part of her had held onto a foolish, stubborn hope that he would come, that he would see the truth. That hope was dead now. She jumped when a fist pounded on the door, not a knock, but a frantic, desperate hammering. Her heart leaped into her throat. She knew, even before she opened it. Joon-Ho stood there, soaked to the bone from the pouring rain, his hair plastered to his forehead. He was breathing heavily, shaking, his eyes wide with a frantic, shattered look. He looked nothing like the dragon. He looked like a lost soul. Neither of them spoke. The rain drummed a frantic rhythm on the roof. Then, Joon-Ho moved. He didn't step forward. He fell to his knees on the worn hallway carpet, right there in the doorway.
I'm sorry.
The words were a broken whisper, torn from the deepest part of him.
Go, Amelia, I'm sorry.
I should have believed you. I should have trusted you. I should have protected you. I failed you in every way a man can fail a woman. Amelia stared down at him. The most powerful man in Vancouver, brought to his knees in a dim hallway. She felt too much anger, grief, betrayal, all tangled into a knot so tight she couldn't breathe. You believed I could hurt you, she said, her voice flat dead. After everything we shared, after I gave you everything I had, you believed I would manipulate you, that I would drug you. I know.
His voice was raw.
I was wrong. You threw me away. The words exploded from her, all the pain finally breaking free. When I needed you most, you threw me away like I was nothing. I lost everything. My job, my reputation, my life here. The man I loved told me I was a liar and threw me to the wolves. I'll make it right. Whatever it takes, I'll. You can't, she cried, tears streaming down her face. You can't make it right. I believed in you. I believed in us. I thought we were different. I thought you saw me. The real me. You're right, he said, his head bowed, rain and maybe tears streaming down his face. I have no excuse. I've been betrayed so many times. I couldn't believe something real was actually for me. That's my failure, not yours. The first moment things got hard, you abandoned me, she whispered, the fight draining out of her, leaving only a hollow ache. How can I ever trust that you won't do it again? I don't know, he admitted, his voice cracking with honesty. He finally looked up, meeting her eyes, and the pain in his was unbearable. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I know I don't deserve it. I'm asking for a chance to earn it. However long it takes, whatever it costs. I'll spend the rest of my life proving I'm worthy of you. What if you can't? She asked, her voice small. What if you fail again? Then at least I'll die trying. He reached for her hand, not grabbing, not demanding, just offering his palm up. A plea. Because living without you isn't living, Amelia. It's just existing. The screaming is back. The fire is back. Worse than ever. Because now I know what I lost. His voice dropped to a broken whisper. You're my cure. But more than that, you're my heart. And I broke my own heart when I broke yours. Amelia looked at him, at this broken king on his knees. She thought of her grandmother's words. You will see the wound everyone else misses. She saw his wound now. It was deep, and it was old, and it had made him do a terrible thing. But it wasn't unforgivable. She saw the man, not just the monster. I don't forgive you, she said finally, her own voice trembling. I know. I don't know if I can ever forgive you. I know. I'm still angry. I'm still hurt. I still don't know if I can trust you. I know. She reached down, her hand trembling, and took his. She didn't pull him up. She just held it. His fingers closed around hers, cold and wet, but his grip was solid.
Real.
But I'm not ready to give up on you yet, she whispered. She pulled him to his feet and led him inside, out of the rain. It wasn't forgiveness. Not yet. But it was a beginning. The drive back to Vancouver was silent. Joon-Ho drove, his knuckles white on the steering wheel. Amelia stared out the window at the blur of rain and trees, her hand still tingling from the feel of his. She had just thrown a lit match onto the ashes of her old life, and she had no idea what would catch fire. He didn't take her to the penthouse. He took her to a different building, quieter, more secure. A safe house. The apartment was modern and clean, but it felt empty. A place, not a home. I'll stay somewhere else, he said, his voice still rough with emotion. He couldn't look at her. You'll be safe here. Whatever you need, just tell Tae-sik. He was already pulling away, building walls to protect himself from the shame. Amelia didn't argue. She was too tired. The next morning, the work began. It wasn't romantic. It was hard, awkward, and painful. Joon-Ho didn't just apologize. He acted. His first call was to the Korean Medical Association. His second was to the licensing board. He didn't threaten. He presented the evidence Ji-hoon had gathered, his voice cold and precise. But everyone in the room knew the unspoken threat. The dragon was cleaning his house, and he would not be disrespected. Within a week, Amelia's professional record was formally cleared. Job offers trickled in. She ignored them. Joon-Ho's next move was to fly her parents in from Chicago. He met them in the safe house living room, looking like a man heading to his own execution. Her father, a proud, quiet man, didn't yell. His disappointment was worse. "You hurt my daughter," he said, his voice low and steady. "You believed lies about her. You destroyed the life she built here. Why should I trust you with her heart again?" "You shouldn't," Joon-Ho answered, his head bowed. "But I'm asking you to let me prove I've changed. However long it takes." Her mother was harder. She said nothing, just looked at him with sad, knowing eyes. But when Joon-Ho, his accent thick and clumsy, tried a few words of Chui he'd been practicing, a small, reluctant smile touched her lips. "He's trying, Amelia," her mother told her later. "I see it in his eyes. He's really trying." "I know, Mama," Amelia replied. "I just don't know if trying is enough." The most surprising thing was the therapy. Joon-Ho went, twice a week, to a discreet office far from his usual haunts. He found a therapist who wasn't impressed by his money or his reputation. A woman who challenged him. "You don't trust because trusting has hurt you," the therapist said one session. "But you also chose distrust over evidence. You chose your fear over her love." Joon-Ho was quiet for a long time, the words sinking in. "Because being betrayed by her would have destroyed me," he finally admitted, the truth feeling like a confession. "And part of me believed I didn't deserve to be loved. So when the fake evidence appeared, it confirmed what I already believed. That good things aren't for me. That love is a trap. And now I'm trying to believe I can be better. That I can be someone she can trust." He didn't pressure Amelia. He gave her space. But he was present. A text in the morning. A single flower left at the door. He learned to make her a cup of tea, the way she liked it. Small, quiet things. One evening, nearly 2 months after he'd knelt in her doorway, they were sitting on the balcony of the safe house. The city lights were out, the air was cool. "You're not my cure, you know," Amelia said softly, breaking the comfortable silence. Joon-Ho tensed beside her. "What? I can't be the only thing holding you together. That's not fair to me, and it's not healthy for you. The therapy, the work you're doing, that's the real cure. I help you feel safe enough to find it." He was quiet, processing her words. "I know," he said finally. "The quiet, it's different now. It's not just when you're there. Sometimes, after a session, I can find a little of it on my own. It's hard, but it's there." Amelia felt something warm unfold in her chest. That was the first real proof he was changing. He was hearing her, not just listening. "I see you trying, Joon-Ho," she said, her voice barely a whisper. I'm still scared." "That's okay," he said, his hand finding hers in the darkness. His grip was warm. "Sure. I'll wait as long as you need. What if it takes forever?" He turned to her then, and in the dim light, she could see his real smile, the one that softened his eyes. Then forever sounds perfect. The proposal didn't happen on a boat or at a fancy party. It happened in the safe house kitchen on a random Tuesday. Amelia was making breakfast. Joon-Ho was watching her, a look of such profound peace on his face that it made her heart ache. He walked over, took the spatula from her hand, and set it down. "I'm still a dangerous man, Amelia," he said, his voice low and serious. "My world is still dark. There will always be threats. I'll never be a normal husband. I know who you are, Joon-Ho. And I know who you are." He pulled a small, black velvet box from his pocket. "You're the woman who saw the man inside the monster. Who loved me even when I was unlovable." He opened the box. The ring was stunning. A perfect diamond set between two smaller stones, one the deep red of Ghanaian garnet, the other the cool green of Korean jade. A perfect, beautiful fusion of them. "Be my wife," he said, his voice steady and sure. "Not as my cure, as my partner. Let me spend the rest of my life loving you the way you deserve." Amelia looked from the ring to his eyes. She saw the man he had been, the man he was, and the man he was fighting to become. She saw all of it. And she chose all of it. Yes. The wedding was a legend. It was held at a private estate on the British Columbia coast, the misty ocean and towering evergreens as their witnesses. Amelia wore a gown of white silk that incorporated a bold strip of Kent cloth down its length. Joon-Ho wore a traditional hanbok with subtle Kent accents on the sleeves. Her parents cried. Ji-hoon, his best man, gave a speech that had everyone laughing and then, suddenly, wiping their eyes. Tae-sik even smiled. A real one. When it was time for their vows, Joon-Ho's voice didn't waver. "You are my peace, my home, my heart," he said, his eyes locked on hers. "I lived for years in a storm, thinking I was cursed. But I wasn't cursed.
I was waiting for you.
Every breath I take from this day forward is yours." Amelia's vows were simpler. "I see all of you, the Dragon of Vancouver, and the man who learned to love. The darkness and the light. I choose both. Today, tomorrow, forever." The celebration lasted until dawn, a vibrant, joyful mix of Korean and Ghanaian music, food, and dance. 2 years later, their daughter was born. She had Amelia's warm brown skin and Joon-Ho's intense, dark eyes. She was named after Amelia's grandmother. One early morning, Joon-Ho was awake, the baby sleeping peacefully on his chest. Her tiny fingers were wrapped around his thumb. He watched the steady rise and fall of her breath, mesmerized. Amelia stirred beside him, smiling sleepily. "Do you ever regret it?" she whispered. "Choosing someone with a life so complicated?" Joon-Ho looked from his daughter's face to his wife's. He leaned over and kissed Amelia's forehead, his heart so full he thought it might burst. "I spent a decade searching for satisfaction," he whispered back. "I tried to fill the void with money, power, fear. Nothing worked." He smiled, a true, easy smile that reached his eyes. "Turns out, I wasn't looking for satisfaction at all." "What were you looking for?" Amelia asked, though she already knew the answer. "You," he said, pulling her closer, their daughter safe between them. "I was just looking for you." Outside, the city of Vancouver began to wake up. But inside, there was only peace. A peace that had been earned, fought for, and won. If this story held you captive until the very end, then do us both a favor. Subscribe to the channel. I tell stories like this every single day, and I don't want you to miss a single one. Click the bell, so YouTube lets you know the moment the next one is live. Thanks for watching.